What's up, and welcome to That's Enough, the show where we talk about the sports topics that we just can't stop talking about. He's Steve Hofstetter. I'm Mike Janella. It's summertime. Memorial Day's in the rearview window. We're sweating. Steve's in a hotel again as usual. All this man does is tour. You down to talk? You down to talk a little bit here for Steve for 15 minutes?
I think I can find the time. Otherwise, it'd be real weird for me to be on screen right now.
That would be awkward. The 30-second episode would be a rarity in our collection. Yeah, see ya. Thanks for listening. All right, let's get to it. This week and during summer on this show, you're going to get a lot of Mets-inspired content just because of the nature of the personalities here. We're both Mets fans. I work for the team. But this is not a Mets topic. It's just inspired by them. So the Mets this week, they're home. They're playing the Rockies. But then they go on the road, and they're at the Dodgers next week, at the Rockies, at the Nationals. And as I'm looking at the schedule, I thought this is something that I want to bring up. Stadium naming rights. Because all three of those teams don't have any, or the Rockies do. So Dodgers play at Dodger Stadium. The Rockies play at Coors Field, which is a sponsor. And the Nationals play at Nationals Park. They don't have a sponsorship deal there. And I was thinking those are three pretty good stadium names. And Coors Field, I think, is the platonic ideal of a stadium sponsorship. It's a local company. It's easy to say. Everyone knows what it is. It just flows off the tongue. It's easy to remember. Like, it's simple. And my that's enough, because this isn't a show about congratulating people for doing things right. It's about stuff that we're kind of sick of at this point. I want to say that's enough to any companies who do not meet those criteria, but still feel the need to splash all their money on a naming rights deal for a stadium. And I get it. This is why you do it. You want more people to know about your company and to know about its name and to maybe Google what you guys are all about and do. But I've been keeping a list of ones that I don't like across multiple stadiums. Kaseya Center, where the Miami Heat play. I don't know what that is. Acrisure Stadium, where the Steelers play. You had Heinz Field.
What I was going to say. Yeah.
You had Heinz Field. Heinz ketchup, Americana at its finest, Pittsburgh-based. Like, come on. Paycor Stadium for the Bengals. Like, I'm sorry. If any of these companies think that I'm watching a Steelers game in the fall and I'm going to see them and Jim Nantz says, welcome to Acrisure Stadium, friends. And I'm going to say, oh, I wonder what Acrisure is all about. Let me go Google what Acrisure is. Oh, wow, I've learned. No, that's not how it works. Save your money, market it somewhere else. Like, you don't belong on the name on the side of a stadium for these beloved local franchises. That's it.
Yeah. So and the Mets are lucky in that it's Citi Field, which is Citibank, but also like just sounds like the name of a field.
New York City. Right.
Absolutely. It makes sense. People call New York the city. And so like that makes sense. But the amount of times, and LA is a great one. The idea of like Staples Center became crypto.com arena.
The crypt, baby.
Oh my God. Now I understand Staples also a big company, but there are companies with names that work for this. And I think Pittsburgh is such a great example. I lived in Pittsburgh for 4 years. I was living there when they made this change. And the entire city at once just, what? Who? What is Acrisure? And if you look at the other names in Pittsburgh, you've got PNC and PPG. And while those sometimes can be hard to keep track of for people not from Pittsburgh, those are very well-known companies in Pittsburgh. And the idea that suddenly you go from Heinz to Acrisure. I think there are people who work for Acrisure who don't know what Acrisure
don't even know what they do. Yeah, it's like Severance. They work for Lumen. Just the work is very important. I just looked them up because I still don't know what Acrisure is.
Is it insurance?
A financial technology and insurance company. So the Shore, I guess, comes from that. They're based in Grand Rapids, Michigan. What are they doing sponsoring the Steelers Stadium in Pittsburgh?
I don't know.
Makes no
but
sense
I would not put this on the companies. I would put this on the teams. I would put this on the teams who decide to go to the highest bidder regardless of the branding. Because there needs to be a certain, like, look, you're not branding your party deck in left field. You're branding your entire stadium. And so that is more important, I think that the money that you get from good branding is more important than the extra couple of bucks you get from the highest bidder.
So you lived in Pittsburgh for a long time. You just moved out recently. What do they call it? Like when people say, "Hey, we're going to the game. I'll meet you at the AC." Like what do
No,
they say?
they still call it Heinz Field.
Still call it
They
Heinz?
still 100% call it Heinz Field, and I think
don't
they
blame 'em.
always will. It is something that it was a name that just worked. And I understand the idea that we're picking and choosing companies based on names, but there's a difference when it comes to like the galleryfurniture.com bowl. Stop it. First of all, if .com is in your company's name, we don't want you sponsoring a bowl or a stadium. It is so ridiculous. Like
or these days, anything crypto related, like the Bitcoin arena or whatever, Ethereum stadium, crypto.com. We'll see how long that lasts. I'm with you.
I mean, I think that's why the Lakers lost so much value in the playoffs. There are just certain brands it works with and certain brands it doesn't. And if you don't have a brand that I think there are certain names that like they work for what you're doing, but like I don't want to go to Buca de Beppo Field. Like there are just certain companies where you're just like, no, that's too much.
All you can eat pasta between the 6th and 7th innings at Buca de Beppo Field.
Yeah, I'm not going to Banana Republic Arena. Like, there are just certain things that they don't fit.
Staying in Denver, I think the best one, and Coors Field is a good one. The best one is where the Nuggets and the Avs play. Ball Arena. It's basketball. It's sports. Yeah. Ball Arena. It sounds amazing. And Ball is the company that makes aluminum cans and mason jars. If you drink a can of Coke, most likely it was Ball that manufactured the actual aluminum can. Now that, my friends, is great sponsor deal naming. And there are ways to do it if you have a bad sponsor name. And there's two more examples in the NFL I think of. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. And again, Denver, I don't know what it is about the city of Denver, but they got this down. And the Broncos. So the Chiefs, it's Geha Field, I think is how you pronounce it, Geha. They've been Arrowhead Stadium forever, but their name is Geha Field at Arrowhead Stadium. Just like the Broncos is Empower Field at Mile High. If you have, it should be like, Acrisure Stadium at Heinz Field. I don't know if that works because it's two sponsors.
Yeah.
But if you were going to do a sponsor from the first place, name of sponsor at Steeler Stadium or, Penguins Arena. Like there's a way to incorporate that.
God, it'd be so funny if they sold the sponsorship to Hunts instead. They were just like, now it's Hunts Field.
Hunts Field at Heinz Stadium would be fantastic. So that's it. That's enough. If you've got a bad corporate name, work with the team to implement something local. Or if you're a team, look like Steve said for a better deal branding wise. It might not get you the big bucks right away, but would pay off long term. And now here's not an ad from a brand that doesn't sponsor us. We have no naming rights for this show. Today, presented by DraftKings, which is brought to you by FanDuel, which is fueled by BetMGM, which you can access via Bet365. And if you can't tell, I am been a little inundated with sports betting companies and brands and commercials during the NHL and NBA playoffs. It's a lot out there, Steve. A lot of places you can lose your money. This was not an ad, but we're happy to give out promo codes to whatever sports betting platform wants to sponsor us. Reach out to us at that'senoughshow@gmail.com.
Yeah, and that was also brought to you by the reinstatement of Shoeless Joe Jackson and Pete Rose to the.
That's true. That was a couple of weeks ago. We that came out right after I think we recorded the podcast episode for that week. But yeah, betting is cool. It's cool again now, guys.
Yeah,
we won't talk about all the other Pete Rose stuff because this is not that kind of show.
No, gross.
Careful on Google. All right, Steve. You've been touring a lot this spring and into summer, and Tales from the Road. Give it to me.
Well, and not just touring, but also moving. Like I've lived in New York, I've lived in Boston, I lived in LA, I've lived in Pittsburgh, I've lived very briefly in Indianapolis, and now I live in Charlotte. And every city that I've lived in, I'm still a fan of my teams. I still grew up Mets. It's a weird combination, I know. Mets, Knicks, Rangers, and Giants. Those are my teams. The only other person I have ever seen to have that combination was the fictional character of Ray Barone on Everybody Loves Raymond. Those are the 4 teams that they had up as well.
Because it should be Yankees. You have the high class fandom historically. You just swapped in Mets for Yankees.
It is weird. Like most Mets fans go Jets over Giants, they go Islanders over Rangers. It's just
Right.
it's part of it is what I grew up with, and part of it is just who I was friends with when I was a kid. And my family wasn't hockey fans, and so I picked up the Rangers from a buddy when I was 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of how that stuff works. Sometimes you hold on to your teams, but there are people who will be like, "Oh, you live in Pittsburgh for 4 years. You weren't a Steelers fan?" I'm like, absolutely not. No, I remain loyal to my teams. Otherwise, you're just rooting for your city's name. Like, and I understand that there were times, look, I liked the Pirates a whole lot more when I was living in Pittsburgh because going to games there is fun. It's a beautiful stadium. Really, there's nothing to lose. So, like, in that sense, it was fun. But at the same time, that didn't make me like the Mets any less. And, now that I'm in Charlotte, like, yeah, I went to a Charlotte FC game and that was fun because it's not like I have a soccer team. But I'm not gonna suddenly become a Panthers or a Hornets fan. I mean, why? But like, it's something where I have my teams, and will I be happy if they bring joy to the city I live in? Absolutely. These aren't rivals. These aren't teams I'm upset with. But boy, when I was living in LA and I was surrounded by Dodger fans and I was surrounded by Laker fans, like, I had a lot of fun rooting against them.
So let me ask you, and that's a little bit different, I think, but when you go to a place like Charlotte, where you live, that doesn't have any real natural rivalries with New York, whereas
Yeah.
LA does a little bit more. 2 questions. Number one, at what point would you have to live in Charlotte long enough that you think maybe I could be a Panthers and Giants fan? That's question number one. And question number two, when one of those local teams, let's say the Hornets, not next year, but in the next 5 years, 10 years, they make an NBA Finals run, do you feel less guilty jumping on the bandwagon? Would you want to celebrate, try and get tickets to the finals, buy a t-shirt, or do you say, nope, I'm a Knicks fan. That's the choice I made. You guys have fun. I'm just going to watch from the side.
Well, I think that you can be a fan of it's weird to be a fan of your rival, but you can be a fan of 2 teams at once when they don't play each other. Absolutely. My other baseball team is the White Sox. It's been rough, but I got into the White Sox when the Mets were terrible in the early 90s, and the White Sox had, Frank Thomas was my guy. And not just Frank Thomas, but, Blackjack and Alex Fernandez. And like, those were just fun teams to watch. And Robin Ventura is still one of my favorite players of all time. And so I loved when he came to the Mets. I was already a fan of his on the White Sox. And so I think that you can have other teams that you like. There are plenty of other reasons. My wife is from Columbus. She's a Blue Jackets fan. And so if the Rangers aren't playing the Blue Jackets, like, yeah, go Blue Jackets. I'm happy to see them win. That's wonderful. And while I'm in Charlotte, absolutely. Do I want the Hornets and the Panthers to pick it up and play well? Yeah. Will I go to some games? Absolutely. But the idea to suddenly abandon your fandom because you move somewhere, or even weirder, on the road when you're traveling. Like, I've had people at shows just, oh, come on. I had one in Dallas, which was a rivalry. The Cowboys, where the Giants fans hate the Cowboys. Yeah. Well, oh, come on, you're in Dallas now. And be like, yeah, and I didn't change who I was.
Right. And I'm not staying in Dallas. I'm leaving tomorrow. That's why I'm not going to shift my entire allegiances to you. I would say I've been guilty of being in a town, and it's like, I was visiting in Baltimore, and I'm a Giants fan, but the Giants were out of the playoffs. Ravens made a Super Bowl run. Yeah, I'll put on an Ed Reed jersey and go meet you at Buffalo Wild Wings and like party along. But it's that keeping it permanently. You can't be blamed. People that have kids somewhere, that's a different story. Now that kid's going to grow up maybe rooting locally, but the parents can always keep what they're doing. It's who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really ridiculous when oh, you're in blah, blah, blah territory now. It'd be like, well, you wouldn't change if you took a trip to New York for the weekend. So why should I?
Right. Wear the shoe, walk a mile in the shoes, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's our time. That's up. So appreciate you guys as always for listening, watching, wherever it is. Keep up with us. We're at That's Enough Show on all social medias. That's Enough Show at gmail.com if you want to reach out. I'm at Mike Janella on all different platforms. And Steve, you can wrap up too.
Yeah, I'm at Steve Hofstetter on various different platforms. And also, come see a show and tell me why my fandom is stupid.
Yeah, in person is always better. Steve loves when you heckle him at his shows. Thanks for listening. That's enough.